In this video, we're going to talk about commercial crime insurance. This is from assignment 9 of the CPCU text. But before we begin to get into the commercial crime insurance form, let's review the commercial property cause of loss forms and the limitations associated with them in terms of theft coverage. If you look back at the cause of loss forms, you'll notice that the basic and broad forms don't even cover theft as a named peril. The special form doesn't exclude all types of theft, but if you look at page 3.28 and 29, you'll notice many of the exclusions of the special form were theft related. For example, the dishonest or criminal acts form, which is actually often referred to as the employee dishonesty exclusion. So it actually excludes any dishonest or criminal acts of the named insured, including any members, managers, officers, employees, directors, trustees, or authorized representatives. Also excluded under this special form are voluntary parting, unauthorized instructions, inventory shortages, unexplained disappearance, and theft of building materials. So a commercial insured that wants some kind of commercial crime coverage would need to turn to something different than the commercial property coverage forms. So now let's turn to the ISO commercial crime coverage form. There are 8 insuring agreements in the commercial crime coverage form and policy. We're going to talk first about the first 4 insuring agreements, and then we'll look at the next 4. To begin with are employee theft, forgery or alteration, inside the premises theft of money and securities, and inside the premises robbery or safe burglary of other property. Let's start with a look at employee theft. This insures an employer against theft committed by an employee. The property covered is money and securities and other property, and I'll define money and securities in a moment. The coverage territory is in the U.S., Puerto Rico, and Canada, and anywhere the employee is for 90 days or less. Under the policy, theft is considered the unlawful taking of money, securities, or other property to the deprivation of the insured. For the purposes of employee theft, this includes forgery. Employee defined in the policy must meet all 3 of these criterion to be considered an employee under this insurance. They must be employed by the insured currently or within the last 30 days. They must be compensated by salary, wages, or commission. So, someone who is volunteering would not be considered an employee. And they must be subject to the control and direction of the insured. And both the definition of theft and employee apply not just to this coverage, the employee theft coverage, but to all of the 8 insuring agreements. Now let's look at forgery or alteration. This covers losses that result from an employee's forgery or alteration of an insured's checks or drafts. It is not for losses from the insured's acceptance of forged checks. Now let's look at inside the premises theft of money and securities. This covers theft, disappearance, or destruction of money and securities inside the premises or a banking premises. The definition of theft includes the unlawful taking of covered property. Notice that because the term disappearance is in the insuring agreement, the loss can be caused by an unobserved disappearance. In some of these insuring agreements, you'll notice that the loss has to be observed or otherwise proven to be a covered loss. Now let's look at inside the premises robbery or safe burglary of other property. The insured that has the special cause of loss form may not need this because the special form actually would cover this type of loss. Robbery must either be the taking of property from a custodian, have threatened or caused bodily harm, or be an unlawful act witnessed by a custodian. A custodian is you, the insured, or any of your partners or members, or an employee while having the care and custody of property, excluding a watch person or janitor. A watch person is any person you retain to have care and custody of property inside the premises and who has no other duties, such as a janitor or a doorkeeper. Now let's look at safe burglary. Safe burglary means the unlawful taking of property from within a locked safe or vault. There must be marks of forcible entry into the safe or vault. In other words, this shows the insured has not just faked the loss. There are some special limits under this insuring agreement. There's a $5,000 per occurrence limit for robbery or safe burglary on precious metals, precious stones, and furs and the like, and manuscripts, drawings, or records, or the cost of reconstructing them. The definition of money is currency, coins, banknotes in current use, traveler's checks, registered checks, and money orders held for sale to the public. The definition of securities means negotiable or non-negotiable instruments of contracts representing money or property, for example, stocks, bonds, stamps, and tickets. Now let's look at the last four insuring agreements. They are outside the premises, computer fraud, funds transfer fraud, and money orders and counterfeit money. Outside the premises covers money, securities, or other property while outside the premises in the care and custody of either a messenger or armored vehicle company. The messenger and the custodian are basically the same, except the custodian has care and custody inside the premises. The messenger has custody outside the premises. Computer fraud insures against the loss of money, securities, and other property from the use of a computer to fraudulently transfer the property from inside the premises or a bank to a place outside the premises or to a person outside the premises. It does not cover fraud committed by an employee that is covered by employee theft coverage. You'll notice several places where there's an intent to make sure there is no overlap of coverage between the different insuring agreements. Now let's look at funds transfer fraud. This covers loss of money that is transferred from an insured's account at a financial institution. It could occur telephonically, through forged documents, or written instructions and faxes. Losses resulting from computer fraud are excluded. Again, this is an example of where there's an attempt to make certain there's no overlapping coverage. Lastly, money orders and counterfeit money. This covers the loss from the insured's good faith acceptance of money orders not paid and counterfeit money. Note that for coverage to apply, the insured must have accepted the money order or counterfeit in exchange for merchandise, money, or services. In other words, they had to have given something of value in exchange for the counterfeit or fraudulent money order. Now let's look at additional insuring agreements and limits of insurance. In addition to selecting any or all of the 8 crime endorsements, the insured can select from 6 additional insuring agreements. Lessees of safe deposit box, which enables customers to insure their property they keep in a safe deposit box. Securities deposited with others. This insures property deposited with others. A common example would be collateral. Guests' property. This would be good for hotels and motels and bed and breakfast for liability for property loss that is sustained by their guests. Destruction of electronic data or computer programs. This covers repair or restoration of electronic data that has been damaged or destroyed by a virus. And unauthorized reproduction of computer software by employees. Now let's talk about the limits of insurance. Each one of the 8 insuring agreements might have a separate limit. The limit will be shown in the declarations for the policy. The limit stated is the most an insurer will pay for one occurrence covered under an insuring agreement. The definition of occurrence may differ depending on the insuring agreement. The definition of occurrence in employee theft, for example, requires that the act or acts must be committed by an employee. Let's look at an application of this. So, if the limit is $200,000, 10 employees all steal $25,000 from the employer in a single scam, that single scam is considered an occurrence. The insurer pays $200,000, not $250,000. It isn't as though the insured has $200,000 per employee. Also, though, $200,000 is the most the insurer will pay for losses from a series of criminal acts by the same employee. So the limit applies per employee and per act. Now let's look at the exclusions under the commercial crime policy. First, we'll talk about general exclusions to all 8 insuring agreements, and then we'll talk about those that apply to a single insuring agreement. Those applicable only to employee theft, applicable to inside and outside the premises, computer fraud, and funds transfer fraud. So let's look at the general exclusions. First, acts committed by you, your partners, or your members. This eliminates coverage for loss resulting from theft or other dishonest acts of the named insured or the named insured's partners or members. Also, acts of employees learned of prior to the policy period. This prevents insureds from going out and purchasing a policy after they've already learned of a theft. Unauthorized disclosure of confidential information is excluded. Legal fees, costs, and expenses, which may be covered under the forgery and alteration, but unlike most liability policies, legal fees, costs, and expenses are not covered under most commercial crime. Indirect loss, governmental action, war and military action, nuclear hazard, and pollution are all also excluded. Now let's look at exclusions applicable only to employee theft. First of all, inventory shortages. Inventory shortage is a unique case when it comes to theft. It's tempting to attribute most inventory shortages to employee theft. However, when the inventory shortage cannot be tied to something specific, it could be many other things, usually associated with human error. Incorrect counting, incorrect recording, or transfers of inventory from one location to another. This exclusion allows the insured to offer inventory records in support of a loss, but only if the shortages can be proven without computations. In other words, the insured has to be able to prove, either by someone having observed the theft or other kinds of evidence of the theft, that the inventory shortage was as a result of employee theft. The inventory records would be available only to show the amount of loss. Additionally, trading is excluded. This eliminates coverage for an employee's unauthorized trading in bonds, stocks, etc. And warehouse receipts are excluded for losses from fraudulent signing of warehouse receipts. Now, exclusions applicable to inside and outside the premises. Accounting or arithmetical errors or omissions are excluded. Exchanges or purchases. Fire, which doesn't apply to money and securities in safes and vaults, and money-operated devices such as vending machines, motor vehicles or equipment and accessories, transfer or surrender of property, vandalism, and voluntary parting are all excluded with both inside and outside the premises coverage. Now, those exclusions applicable to computer fraud, credit card transactions, funds transfer fraud, which prevents overlapping coverage between computer fraud and funds transfer fraud coverage. Inventory shortages. This is the same as the employee theft exclusion of inventory shortages, but it does not permit the use of computer calculations to prove an otherwise established loss. Lastly, exclusions applicable to funds transfer fraud. Basically, this is just an elimination of coverage for loss resulting from the use of a computer to fraudulently cause a transfer of money, securities, or other property. Now let's talk about the loss trigger. Commercial crime policies are written on a loss sustained or a discovery form basis. Commercial crime losses might not be discovered for a long period after they occur, so there is a question of whether the policy was in force when the loss or the crime actually occurred or was sustained, or when the crime was discovered. A policy written on a loss sustained basis means that the occurrence causing the loss must have taken place during the policy period. If the policy is a discovery form basis, the loss must be discovered during the policy period. Loss discovery is generally more responsive, especially for losses that may take a long time to be discovered. This can be especially the case for employee theft losses, since it often takes a long time to discover them. Now let's take a look at the conditions of the policy, and the conditions section of the policy addresses the loss trigger. So we'll first look at conditions relating to the loss trigger. Then we'll discuss conditions affecting interests insured, then conditions affecting employee theft, and conditions affecting claims handling. But let's return to our discussion of the loss trigger. All three of these conditions I'm about to discuss pertain to the loss trigger. They are the extended period to discover loss, the loss sustained during prior insurance issued by us or any affiliate, and the loss sustained during prior insurance not issued by us or any affiliate. Both the loss sustained forms and the discovery forms contain an extended period to discover loss condition. It applies only if the policy is canceled. It is a period of time after cancellation of the policy known as the extended discovery period, or simply discovery period. So, coverage will apply on a canceled policy if the loss is discovered within a specified period after cancellation. For all claims other than those involving employee benefit plans, the loss sustained forms provide a 1-year extended discovery period. The discovery forms only provide a 60-day period. With regard to any employee benefit plan, as defined in the policy, the loss sustained forms and discovery forms each provide a 1-year period. The loss sustained during prior insurance issued by us or any affiliate is needed when the policy is loss sustained because some losses from crime are not discovered until after the policy period. It covers the loss sustained during a prior policy issued by the same insurer or its affiliate. And we'll look at a timeline of how this works in the next circle. The loss sustained during prior insurance not issued by us or any affiliate essentially has the same purpose, but is subject to different provisions that can result in a different amount of loss payable. The main reason we need these two conditions is that some crime losses are not discovered until after the end of the policy period. If the new or renewal policy is written on a loss sustained basis, it will not cover losses that occurred before the policy period. Let's look at an example. On July 1st, 2014, Casey's CPA office purchases employee theft coverage on a loss-sustained basis from Hemford Insurance Company. The 1-year policy incepts on July 1st, 2014, which means it would end on June 30th, 2015. On January 10th, 2015, an employee embezzles $28,000 from Casey's CPA firm. Now we're at July 1st, 2015. On June 30th, 2015, Hemford's policy had expired at midnight. The insured renews with Justice Mutual on July 1st, 2015. So, on August 18th, 2015, Casey's discovers the $28,000 embezzlement. Hemford policy is no longer in force, so it will not cover the loss. Justice Mutual will cover the loss because of this condition as long as there was no gap between the current and preceding policy periods, and there wasn't, and the loss would have been covered by current insurance, in other words, by the Justice Mutual policy, if it had been in effect at the time of the occurrence. Now let's talk about conditions affecting employee theft. But before we do, I want to look at this poster. I want to talk about this poster quickly. Notice that, and this was from about 2009, so it's a bit dated, but this shows how employee theft is on the rise. 27% of large companies are seeing an increase in theft. In terms of the amount stolen, 25.3% of businesses say that it's been $1 million and up. The median is $175,000. When you look at the education level of office thieves, 34% have high school degree, 21% have some college, and 34% have a bachelor's degree, with only 11% having a postgraduate degree. But while they are less likely to steal, they take 5.5 times more than high school graduates. And finally, 37.1% of total frauds are committed by a manager. 29% of employees say they've had ideas stolen at work, and 2 years is the average time office fraud lasts before it's detected, which is clearly applicable to our loss trigger concerns. 1 out of 30 retail employees is arrested for workplace theft. This isn't in the textbook, but it could be on the test. Now let's look at some of these conditions. You can have an extension that covers an insured's property while temporarily out of the coverage territory. The employee theft coverage ceases once an insured or partner learns that an employee has committed a theft. And in terms of employee benefit plans can be insured. The Employee Benefit Plan's condition explains how employee theft coverage will apply when the policy includes one or more employee benefit plans as insureds for employee theft coverage. In other words, if an employee steals out of an employee benefit plan, that plan is considered an insured under the policy, and this condition explains that. Now let's look at conditions affecting interests insured. These relate to the parties who have insurable interests in property. In other words, the interests or the insurable interests that are insured or covered. Ownership, of course, is covered. There is a joint insured clause that addresses situations where there is more than one insured, for example, a parent-subsidiary situation, or an insured and an officer. This provides employee theft coverage to every insured with respect to employees of any other insured. Consolidation, merger, or acquisition extends coverage to acquired organizations for up to 90 days before the insurer is notified. And there's a condition relating to additional premises or employees. The policy will automatically cover any premises or employees the insured adds during the policy period, other than through consolidation, merger, or acquisition. The insured doesn't have to notify the insurer of any increase in employees or pay an additional premium for the remainder of that policy period. Now let's look at conditions affecting the claim. Concealment or misrepresentation of a material fact void the policy. The insured must cooperate with the insurer on any investigations and all other matters pertaining to this insurance. It's extremely important in settling a claim. No loss in any one occurrence is payable by the insurer unless the amount of the loss exceeds the deductible. We won't have a deductible calculation on this exam, but note that there could be a deductible on the policy. Duties in the event of loss include notifying the insurer as soon as possible, submitting to an examination under oath, producing all permanent records for the insurer to examine, giving a detailed sworn proof of loss, and cooperating with the insurer on the investigation, much like any other commercial property coverage. The other insurance condition says how the insurer's obligation for covered loss under this insurance is limited when there's other insurance applicable. The records condition requires the insured to keep records of all covered property so the insurer can verify the amount of covered loss. The difference between theft and other types of loss, of course, is that there is no property to be observed to determine whether or not it's been destroyed or damaged. This makes fraud much more probable with theft claims than other causes of loss. So it's important that the insured keeps records to verify the amount of covered loss. After a settlement for covered loss, it's possible that the insurer or insured may succeed in recovering property that was stolen or lost. The recoveries condition says that any recovery less the cost of obtaining the recovery is distributed first to the insured until the insured has been reimbursed for any covered loss in excess of the amount paid under insurance. Lastly, transfer of your rights of recovery against us, which is the subrogation condition. The commercial crime form subrogation condition is a typical subrogation condition. The valuation settlement condition explains how money, securities, and other property will be valued for purposes of claim settlement. Covered loss of money is paid at its face value. Covered loss of securities is paid at the market value of the securities on the close of the business day that the loss was discovered. Covered loss of or damage to other property is paid on a replacement cost basis if the property is replaced. However, the insurer will pay no more than the least of the cost to replace the lost or damaged property with comparable material and quality property used for the same general purpose, the amount the insured actually spends to replace or repair the property, or the limit of insurance. And that concludes our discussion of commercial crime insurance. Just note that crime insurance is important, but risk management is critical with these types of losses because they tend to be frequent and therefore expensive to insure. Common theme is you want to prevent theft, you need to plan.